Well, I'm absolutely honored to be in the great state of Iowa again. Larry, Dee Dee, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Everyone needs to understand the importance of what Larry and his group are doing. They're trying to teach farmers to farm away from so-called traditional methods, okay? That, by the way, aren't working. So the things that Larry and his group are doing are phenomenal, so great job. There's not a lot of organizations like that in the country. They're getting to be more and more, but it will be coming. I start with this slide every time because this is the most important thing that you have in your life, and that's your family. And Christ. Those are the two most important things you have in your life. And you need the support of everyone in that group. Because when you are going to listen to this presentation, you're going to understand how we farm. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of management. It takes a lot of mental capacity. So you need to have people that have your back, and everyone in that picture has my back. And yeah, I'll get to some of the other stuff. I've got my mind in a little bit. On our farm, we've been no-tilling soybeans for 21 years. We've been no-tilling corn for 16 years. We've been cover crops for 16 years. Farming green for 14 years, and farming green is when you plant your cash crop into a living, growing green cover crop. That's what farming green is. And we can do that. You can do this anywhere in the world. So, one of the things that people want to say is that, well, where we are today is we're too far north. And I always say that your neighbors north of you are doing it. So we can do this. We just have to figure out how. That's the challenges. Epigenetics for 6 years. I'm very big on this. I'll get into this in greater detail in a little bit. This goes back to our heritage. And when you think about the way we farm, I call it regenerative organic. And when you think about that, what we're trying to do is to remember everything we've forgotten. When you think about how farms were farmed 2 generations ago, they take a 160 and cut it into 4 quadrants. They'd have a legume like a clover that was used to feed the horses and also was the fuel for the corn crop. They have a soybean, a corn, and a wheat, and they rotate that. We don't seem to do that anymore. So we have to just keep thinking about the things that we've forgotten about, and epigenetics is one of those things. I'll talk about that in a little more detail. And biostimulants for 3 years, and on-site bioreactors for 3 years. That's a Johnson-Su bioreactor. If you don't know what that is, look that up, Johnson-Su, S-U, and you'll see it's very similar to what Vache and his group are doing. They're just doing it on a more expedited rate of making that biology. The Johnson-Su will take you 12 to 14 months. So it's a totally different delivery system. We have a 9-crop system at home plus 1, and just to give you a little bit of where I'm from, I'm sorry, I apologize. Everybody knows what Champaign, Illinois is, right? Doesn't matter where I go, everybody knows what Champaign, Illinois is. Come straight across into Indiana, and that's where we are. So pretty good soil, not as good as here. I think, in my opinion, we're standing in the best soil in the United States for fertility, right here. From here up to 90, go west. This is the best. So you need to respect that. You need to understand that. There is a lot of inherent natural fertility in this soil where we're standing right now. Take advantage of it. 9-crop system. So at home, it's like it is in most places. It's corn and soybeans for our neighbors. We are corn, soybeans, wheat, alfalfa, peas, milo, buckwheat, cover crops, sheep, cattle. Those are the things that we're doing on our farm now. It's all about diversity. And I want to also thank Andy. Andy, for your presentation, wherever you went. Andy's back there. Great presentation, and Andy has teed up my presentation very well. You're going to see and hear a lot of similarities. Diversity is key. 5,600 acres certified organic. The remaining acres are in transition. We use no starter fertilizer in 11 years. No fungicides. No seed treatments. No insecticides. No P or K. No ag lime. Now I know that there's more to the pH of your soil than just ag lime. I know that. But our pH of our farm is around 6.9 to 7, and it just stays there throughout the field. I've heard last night, I was invited to Larry's place, and a lot of change in pH just through one field. I'd have to dig in deeper to see that, but when you start to implement the cover crops along with the no-till, you start to bring things into balance. And when you take away all of the caustic acids and the salts, and again, Andy talked about those salts and acids, you don't need ag lime because you're not affecting your pH. So these are things that we have to learn how to apply to our situation. We've not used any nitrogen in 6 years. So you can raise crops without nitrogen. Imagine that. We're going to talk more about it. And we've been doing this organic with no tillage. Now, folks, I cannot tell you how hard this is. I think there's some organic growers right here, I believe, somewhere. This is almost impossible. So I was not asked by Larry to come here today and tell you how to farm. That's not why I was asked to come here. I was asked to come here to share how we farm. And the hope today is there's a lot of great speakers today. We've already heard one. There's going to be more behind me. The hope today is to take one or two ideas from each speaker and take them home and implement them into your operation. You know, the way we farm, look at that list, very few people farm that way. So I'm way over there. The folks that do nothing are over there. Let's meet right here in the middle somewhere and figure out how to incorporate some of these input reductions. Okay? Balance. It's all about balance. Everything in life is about balance. A symbiotic relationship with Mother Nature. And I'll just make this real simple. I think it's like this everywhere in the United States. People like to shoot things. At home, we have a group of hunters that go out and on a mission to kill every coyote in the county. I don't understand this. But they go out and they kill every coyote in the county. So what happens when you do that?
More coyotes.
Huh?
More coyotes.
More coyotes. Well, how's that? When you shoot them all?
They reproduce faster if you kill them off.
Huh, okay. But so do the rabbits and the squirrels and the skunks and everything else.
Correct.
The system's out of balance. The same thing is happening in your soil. The same thing's happening in your human gut. Things get out of balance, so we have to get back to balance. Does anybody in the room do anything called a Haney test? 1, 2 people, 3. Haney test. This is a very important test that you need to be doing. It's expensive, but you don't do it on a grid sample like you would on traditional soil sampling. This is a soil health test. And there is a plethora of information in this test. One of the things you get back is bacterial to fungal relationships. When you are in a high fertility, high tillage environment, you are in a high bacterial system. No fungal. That's not good. as you move out of tillage and fertility and chemistry and all of these caustic and acidic things, you start to get more imbalance of bacterial and fungal start to do this, and you get to balance. This is a quick way to determine if your regenerative soil health practices are working. It takes no expensive test. Just get a soil sample sent into the Regen Ag Lab, Lance Gunderson in Nebraska, have him run a Haney test for you, and then you can start to see the trend. I say this very strongly, the trend. A test is a snapshot in time. Okay, it's just like a sugar test. If you took my sugar right now and you got a number, and I drank a Coke and it took my number an hour later, what's my sugar number going to look like? It's going to go way up. So if you are taking soil tests in your fields and those results aren't changing, there's problems. Because this is a dynamic living system that changes all the time. So what you do is you don't look at what that test is telling you when you took it on November the 2nd. You have data behind you and you look at what is the trend. What is the trend of organic carbon? What is the trend of inorganic nitrogen? Then you can start to make your decisions based on the trends of the data that you're getting. Be way better off. It's all about balance. 6 principles of soil health. Do we know? Anybody know what these are? Everybody even heard of them? 6 principles of soil health. Number 1, minimize disturbance. This is what they mean here is not only tillage but chemistry. So again, I am not here to say everyone in this room by 2027 needs to be done with all inputs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to figure out a way to incorporate practices that will start to minimize this disturbance. Number 2, maximize diversity. There's many ways to do this. Grow more than 2 crops. Now I know we can only grow crops that there's a market for. I understand that. If there's no market for canola, then don't grow canola. I get it. How far away is the nearest wheat market from here? Is there one in the state of Iowa? Is there a wheat market? No? Is there any cereal grain market at all in Iowa? I'm sorry? Oats. Planted in the spring, harvested like June or July or so. Okay. So there's one option there. Now, let's go back to when I said we grow nine crops, and then I forgot to talk about the +1. So I'm going to take a little break here on this for just a moment. The +1 is what I call regen year. That's when you take a crop or an acre out of production. And typically what happens here is the reason why you do this is because your field, let's say, I don't know how you guys are, but at home we name our fields by the previous landowner. It's the Smith 120, right? I don't know how you name your fields, but we're going to talk about the Smith 120. So the Smith 120 has been at the tail end of harvest every year for the last 5 years, and it is very hard to get a cover crop established after Thanksgiving in the Midwest. It's too cold. So that field now cannot get in step with where I want it to be in the rotation of the cash crop and the cover crop. So we take the Smith 120 out of production, and it now is going to get a cool season cocktail finished by a warm season cocktail, finished by the cocktail you want to have for the cash crop for the following year. First question you're going to say is, how in the world can you take an acre out of production? When I started doing this 5 years ago, the first year we took out a production was 400 acres. No cash crop. And you're going to say, man, that's a zero. No, it's far from a zero. You are growing biology. You are growing water infiltration rates. You are growing water holding capacity. You are growing aggregate stability. Again, I'm going to go off what Andy teed me up for. We, right now on our farm, this test was done, I think, about 18 months ago. We had our state soil health specialist showed up at the farm one day, and she said, it's Stephanie McLean, by the way, she's from Minnesota, great gal. If you ever see that name going to talk at a conference somewhere, Stephanie McLean, go. She's that good. She said, Rick, I like to do water holding capacity, and I like to do water infiltration rates, and I like to do earthworm counts on your farm. Is that okay? And I said, have at it. So she spent 2 days going around the farm, and in those 2 days, she came back, and these are averages now, because some fields were high, some were low. She averaged the acres that she did. We have water infiltration rates between 20 and 25 inches an hour. So what that means is we can take a 20-inch rain event in 1 hour and have zero runoff. That's where you've got to get to. We have earthworm counts between 1.7 and 2 million earthworms per acre. You want to talk about livestock, that's some serious livestock in the ground, earthworms. So those are the types of things we've got to get to. We had aggregate stability of 10 inches deep. So when you take aggregate stability that's 10 inches deep, you have a tremendous amount of pore space. And when you have tremendous amount of pore space, you can hold a lot of oxygen and a lot of water. And that's what you need. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute. Maximize diversity. Living roots. You need to have a living root in the ground as long as possible. Armor the soil. This is the mat, the mulch, whatever you want to call it, over the top. When you work hard toward water infiltration rates, water holding capacity, when you work toward all of these things, the last thing you want to do is have it all evaporate away on a 95-degree day. So that's why you need to keep the soil covered. There's a lot of no-tillers in the room, is that right? A lot of no-tillers? I'll just go ahead and ask the question. I ask this everywhere I go, and I've never been surprised yet. Is there anybody in the room that's been no-tilling for 30 years? See? Doesn't matter where I go. Right there. It does not matter where I go, I ask that question, and there's always, is it more than 30? Sir, is it more than 30?
92, 93 is when we started going to no-till and strip-till.
There you go. So the reason why I ask that question, there's a couple reasons. For one, I want to show to the audience that there's always somebody in the crowd that's been doing this. And two, when I get done today, I'm going to get in my rental vehicle and I'm going home. That gentleman's still, are you close? Close by?
15 miles.
So I don't mean to put a lot of pressure on you, but I'd be talking to that guy. You know, if you're not a no-tiller, I'd be going over and saying, hey, why are you, obviously it doesn't work, right? Because, yeah, it doesn't work. So you need to talk to the local people and get the context of what is happening where you are. So context can mean many things. Where are you in the world? Where are you financially? Where are you economically? Where are you with your mind? How thick is your skin? Because believe me, if you want to step out into the world and be public about how you farm, you better have thick skin. Because someone will trash you. They just make a point to trash you. It's okay. It's all right. The way I look at that, the people who are being talked about are the ones who are creating the change. It's okay. Livestock. This isn't for everybody. I understand that. I understand that. If you can get livestock on your farm, though, it is a benefit. It truly is. We do not maximize this to the level that we should. I'm very transparent about everything that we do. I don't have enough people right now to fully utilize the cow herd to rotationally graze. I'm not a grazing expert. There are grazing experts out there. Go hear what they have to say. I do know what the rules are. But I will tell you this. The fields that we did graze cattle on, those fields, the next growing season, whatever crop was planted behind those cattle was the best crop of that year. If it was a bean field, it was the best bean field amongst all the other bean fields. So I'm a guy who likes to go up to 50,000 feet, keep everything very simple, very cheap, look down, and just quickly evaluate. That's a quick validation that took very little effort, very little cost of money out of my pocket to say that that field where we grazed cattle in 22 was the best crop field in the crop year of 23. That's pretty simple. That's how I look at things. And if I could do, hang on just a second, if I could make one more, it'd be number 7. If I could make, you need to be committed to do this. Yes, sir.
Are you grazing your acre that, what you say, you have out of production, no cash crop?
Yes, you can. Okay, great question. So he's asking, on the regen acres, do we graze on those regen acres? Yes. If you have the infrastructure, do you have the fence?
Right.
Do you have water? Do you have all of the things you need to keep that animal alive? Yes. That is the time to knock it out of the park. And I'm telling you, you're knocking it out of the park. So what I like to suggest is, are there any cattle? I know there's a lot of pigs in Iowa. Are there cattle? Is there a feedlot? Is there a dairy? Is there anything very close to here? No. Nothing? You guys just don't like cattle? That bad?
There's turkey operations and hog operations,
But no
a
bovine.
little bit of cattle, there's a dairy in one in Captain.
Well, I'll just go ahead and make this statement just so you can log it away in your brain box. Sometimes the best cattle are your neighbor's cattle. So you go to your neighbor and you say, look, let's work out either a rate of gain or let's work out $1 or a dollar amount per day. You bring your 100 head over, let me rotationally graze them for 45, 60, 90 days, whatever. Take them back and then do that again on another field the following year if you've got the infrastructure. That's what we try to do at home with some dairies that are around. Again, you've got to have people that are willing to work with you on this.
Well, how does drainage tile affect soil health?
How does the drainage tile? Here's how I'm going to answer that question. When I was younger, before we started all of this, we thought we needed to pattern tile every field. 3-inch tile, 40-foot centers. Let's go. Let's get as much money poured into that acre as you possibly can. Now, after I've seen what the soil health, the cover crops, the no-till, all of these things have done, you don't need pattern tile. You just need tile, what's it called? Just like a draw up this way or a low spot over here, more of a strategic type tile plan. Instead of spending $1,000 an acre, you spend $300. That's where I wish we would have done on a lot of our fields. And we are much, for the state of Iowa, this is about as flat as it gets, I think. Iowa's pretty hilly. Where I'm at in Indiana, we are 4% max. Average is going to be 1 to 2, so fairly flat. Those are the fields that I wish we would have not invested all that money. Did that help answer your question? Okay. All right, anything else while we've taken a little pause? Okay.
Do the turnips, where you do have tile, does that jack the tile up?
No,
The tile?
I've seen those stories, I've seen the people digging with their backhoe and up this huge web of roots, and I've never seen that. I have never once seen that. So I'm not saying it's not true, I'm just saying I've never seen it. And we've got tile in about every field, and we've got roots growing in every field of a cover crop. So I don't know, that I don't know. All right, I've got to keep moving because I'm never going to make it here. And and Andy took a little bit of my thunder here, so everybody should know what this is. What is it? Photosynthesis. Yes, this is it, folks. This is what makes or breaks you. How much photosynthesis can you harness in a year's time? The energy from the sun is powerful and it's free. We need to take advantage of it. All right, this right here, I got to set this up for you. This is why, remember those previous slides I told you we don't apply any P or K anymore? This is why. Okay, this was a cornfield in the fall. This was several growing seasons ago. This was a cornfield in the fall. We harvested the corn. We came in and we no-till drilled 100 pounds of Elbon cereal rye. Okay? Right behind the combine. I got this funny notion one day to see what kind of nutrient load was in the above ground material that was growing. I don't know why, I just woke up, I do this a lot. I don't know what it is about 2:30 in the morning, but 2:30 is when I wake up. I don't know why. I've usually got a notepad beside my bed and I'll jot notes down because that's just when they come to my brain. My brain, it's hard to shut off. So I got this idea to do this. So the rye was planted in the fall. It probably came up and grew maybe 4 or 5 inches, went into dormancy in the winter, came out of winter, and took off, and here we are. Okay? And this is going to be a soybean field for this spring. Here's what you do. Since we do this test so often, we build ourselves a jig. So go to the hardware store, get 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch PVC, and make a 2 foot by 2 foot square. Okay? Of PVC. You walk out in the field and you set that PVC down and you get on your hands and knees and you clip everything off inside that 2 foot square at the ground. Put it in a bag and send it to your lab and ask for a feed analysis. This is what you get. Now I just pulled out some of the big boys here. This thing would have filled the whole wall of this room, the report of everything I got back. 12-inch rye. This is the height that most people that claim they cover crop burn it to the ground with glyphosate. It's about 12 inches tall because for heaven's sakes we can't let it get out of control. Look at what's in this rye. This is the above ground material. 82 pounds of nitrogen. 15 pounds of P2O5. So on and so on and so on. Look at the 0060. What is soybeans like? 0060. Look at the biomass, 2,000 pounds. This was 4 days. From 12-inch rye to 18-inch rye, 4 days later, look at the numbers now. Now, we've all probably read a magazine article somewhere that you cannot plant corn into cereal rye, right? I don't know if you've read those articles or not. They're out there. That's bupkis. You can plant corn into cereal rye if you understand what's happening here. Look at how much nitrogen the rye has tied up. Look at this one. 28-inch rye, This is the one that blows me away. It's this one right here. The equivalent of 281 pounds of 0060 is in that living, growing cover crop. We don't need any more P or K, especially where we're at. Can you imagine how many thousands of pounds of P and K are in the ground right here? Thousands. Do you know how many pounds of nitrogen are in an acre of farm ground right out here? You know how many pounds of nitrogen sit above that 1 acre of farm ground? Anybody want to make a wild guess? 20,000 tons. And how many pounds do we need to raise a corn crop? 120? 140? This is powerful stuff, man. Thank goodness I had my brain hooked on when I did this. Because really, if take that away, that's like, okay, Rick, that's great. That's all good stuff. But what is truly available for the plant that's out there growing? Do the math. Subtract 65 from 281. That's a lot of potash to raise a soybean crop. This is why we no longer apply these things. Okay, now, we got to keep moving here. I decided to show you the value now of the three big boys, N, P, and K. Same chart as before, and I did a calculation on what the 82 pounds of N was worth. The total of the big three at the 12-inch, $228.
Rick,
Yeah,
we lost the mic. Better, you have to go.
this is gone.
Yeah.
Sorry. Red light. Red light means no good. Can you hear me if I just talk like this? All right. So, 18-inch rye has $345 worth of N, P, and K. This is insane. 28-inch rye has $435 or whatever, $436 worth of value. Do I need that? All right.
Is this working?
Hello. Okay. Question? No. Okay. So, this is the power of that rye plant, and there's the dead one, that's fine. And this is where I came up with my data. Now, it's a little bit outdated, but honestly, folks, I don't give a hoot about N, P, or K anymore, and I don't even know what stuff costs, and I don't care what it costs, because I don't apply it. But these are the numbers I used. 100 pounds of rye was at 29 cents a pound. So for a $29 an acre investment, is there a pointer on this thing? For a $29 an acre investment, less the cost of getting it out there, we got to a reward of $435. Okay. The power of patience. That is a field of, oh, my brain, I just lost it. Balanza fixation clover. Now, a couple things I want you to look at. I've told you we're organic. I've told you we don't use any chemistry. I've told you we don't use any tillage. Do you see any weeds in that field? I don't. So maybe we don't need to keep pouring all of this stuff on. Now, this is a little bit dangerous what I'm getting ready to say, but I'm going to tell you how I started to reduce. The one thing I wish I would have known in the days of applying chemistry, I wish I would have known now. Andy talked about it. I wouldn't go out, and I wouldn't go out across any field with any load of anything unless it had humic acid in with it. I didn't know that 20 years ago. But the way I started to reduce chemistry was, and again, this is dangerous, so I'm getting ready to tell you, but I never used full rate of like Roundup. Use 12 ounces. That's all you need. But you can't be dangerous about this, because this is part of the reason why we also have weeds that are resistant to the things, because the chemistry is not being used properly. But we would put on 12, 14 ounces of Roundup with a quart of UA and 28 and crush anything that we ever had growing. So you just have to understand that you need to figure out a way to start weaning yourself off of these things. There's 12,700 pounds of biomass in that field. Now that may not be a big deal to you guys, but that's a big deal to me, because that is my weed suppression. This is how we feed the corn, and this is how we suppress weeds. Do you know what percent of nitrogen we're breathing in today? You can't answer, Vache. Do you know what percent of nitrogen we're breathing in here right now?
71%.
That's real close.
78.
There you go. Who said that? 78.1% we are breathing in right now. I already told you, out the door, there's 20,000 tons of free nitrogen sitting above every acre out there. Let's capture that with some legumes, and let's also capture, and then let's also feed that with the nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Okay, you got another one for me? Thank you. You put it right there again for me.
We're gonna take a picture of this one, put it on YouTube. Put it on him again. There we go. I'll keep this guy.
All right. Okay, oops, I just pulled it off, Larry. I just yanked it right off.
I think he enjoyed it, Larry.
Okay, so every group's got a comedian.
Can you put your mic on the table?
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Whoops, whoa. I gave away the spoiler alert there. Okay, same thing, that same 2 foot by 2 foot square. Go out in the field, clip, put it in the bag. This is what we get. We're way off. Here we go. May 20th. There's where we at. June the 4th. 114 pounds of free nitrogen, so on and so on. Look at the K2O. Look at the calcium. People want to say that I have a calcium problem. Well, maybe I do. But there is calcium there, but maybe the plant can't take it up. That's a whole different conversation. Again, Andy talked about it, sap analysis. Anybody in the room doing that? There was a couple of hands went up. You've got to start sap analysis. It's the newest leaf compared to the oldest leaf. And you can determine, I mean, you can do a traditional soil test, and you can come up with 1,000 parts per million of calcium in the soil profile. Whoop-de-doo. Do a sap analysis, and it shows 25 parts per million in the plant. That's what matters. Look at this. This is 4 days. Look at this next one. 4 days. That is insane. That's geometric. Look at the K2O. Look at the calcium. Look at the nitrogen. Here's what I would do if I was in your position, because this is what I used to do. I would plant a legume cover crop with as much diversity as we can. And I would go in and I would plant my no-till corn into this somewhere around June the 1st. And then I would burn it down. I don't care if you want to plant GMO corn. And then I would burn it down about 3 weeks later when the corn's about this tall. And you'll have the best. And then I want you to cut your synthetic load by 50 pounds minimum. And then you can tell me how good your corn did. When we used to farm like this with still some chemistry, the corn was so green it was black. It was that dark. When was the last time you saw corn that dark? The breeders are changing everything on our plants that we grow. I don't ever see real dark green corn anymore. It's all this light green, and it's just the way they're breeding. Again, what's all this mean? On July 24th, we took another sample and looked at the exhaustion rate of all those nutrients. June 8th was the sample taken. The only thing I wish I would have done different here, I wish I would have taken a sample on June the 9th, June the 10th, June the 11th, and June the 12th, and just to have seen where these numbers may have maxed out at. All right, same thing, big three, for May 20th, $291 worth of value. June 4th, 468, hang on to this one, Bache, look at this next line. $1,000 worth of NP and K in that measly little cover crop we planted the fall before for about 30 bucks. 33. Sorry, 33 bucks an acre. Yes, sir. Yeah.
You said burn down. What's your terminology?
Well, I was talking about the group that's in the, some kind of a chemical. I don't mean a match. I mean a chemical and kill it.
Okay.
You still use chemistry? Yeah. Now, for me, we're going to roll crimp that down. We're going to flail chop. We're going to, yeah, those two, one of those two.
Yeah.
So what I meant by burn down,
Your method over the conventional method.
you prefer mine?
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard. I'm going to tell you it's hard. Corn does not like competition, okay? A corn plant wants a nice clean field, and it wants, its neighbor 6 inches away, little soldiers out there. And I am brutally honest when I stand up here, because a lot of times when, you hear a presentation, it's all candy canes and lollipops. It's not. There's a lot of grief that goes into this. There's a lot of things that don't come out like I thought they were going to come out. Corn does not like the competition. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you no-tilled corn into that mess that I did, that I showed you, and did nothing, the corn is probably not going to make it. It is probably not going to make it. Now, maybe with the help of Vache and Andy and their company, maybe there's a biological, I've always said what I think we need are hormones and stimulants. If you start to farm the way we farm, we are growing the biology. It is being repopulated. It never left. I mean, think about the, I can't do the jargon that you guys can, but I'm going to call it the nitrogen-fixing bacteria. What in the world do you think that group is doing in a high-fertility system? They're on vacation. They have no job. But once you take those artificial stimulants away, they now have a job. So that's why I've always said we need hormones and stimulants to wake that group back up. They're there. You just got to wake them up. Now, I'm talking about in a system that's in transition to regenerative. In a system that is high tillage, high fertility, you need the biology working with you because you don't have any. Or you have very little. All right. And again, those are the numbers I used. same chart. Okay. Cop, what song is that? Yes, sir.
That clover mix you mentioned, I'm not familiar with that name.
Alonzo Fixation.
Is that a brand name, or is that, what is that?
It is a brand. I'll tell you why I went with that. We use a roller crimper. Do you know what that is?
Yep.
Okay. We use a roller crimper to terminate. So the Balanza Fixation Clover has a stem that's the size of your pinky and it's hollow. So when that roller crimper rolls over it, it's over. Snaps it and it's over. Crimson Clover, it'd do this. Medium red clover, but Balanza Fixation will do that.
Is that widely available?
Yeah. There's, Balanza is the name you want. Balanza would be like GMC, and Fixation would be like the model. Okay? So there is, there's 6 or 7 Balanza clovers. Fixation is one of them. I can't think of any of the other, but yes, just ask for Balanza.
The other question I had on that, did you go directly into that and plant that green?
Yeah.
Did you, it looked pretty viney. Did you have issues with that, or?
No, we don't use, I don't think I've got a picture of our row unit in this presentation. All we have, we don't have any row cleaners, they're gone. No-till coulter, double disc opener, and a closing. That's it. I heard earlier about compaction's a problem here. But I guess my question that I want to ask, because I always think about this when I'm driving down the road. If you're dropping in a 12-inch piece of iron, is that what we're dropping in? 12, 14 inches? Is that what's going in the ground? Anybody?
Tillage?
Yeah, to relieve compaction.
Yeah.
And you do that, and then the next year, what's your compaction like?
Higher.
It's higher. So why do we keep tilling? That's what I don't understand. If you incorporate a living root, there'll be no more tillage. There'll be no more iron. The roots do miraculous things, but we have to give them time to do their job. Now go back to the 9 crops that we raised. I gave everybody in this room 3 ways to get a cover crop established. In those 9 crops that we plant, one of those crops was a cereal grain. When are cereal grains harvested? In July. And I know this is hard, but we cannot double crop soybeans. Now you've got a window of opportunity to put in a massive cocktail that is riddled with legumes and winter kill species that next spring will look like that field I had on that screen. That's number 1. Number 2 was livestock. You graze livestock up until the 1st or 2nd week in August, pull the livestock out and get your cover crop in for next year's corn. Number 3 was the regen year. Those are 3 ways to get a cover crop established that will work for a crop that needs nitrogen. Now, 19 maybe it was, I don't remember exactly, it doesn't matter. We had weather coming in. I didn't have enough people on hand. We had still 2,000 acres of crops to harvest, and there was a blizzard coming. It was going to flatten everything we had. I said every person needs to be on deck, and all we're focusing on is getting this crop out, and we're going to let the cover crops suffer. We made it. We got the crops done. This blizzard came. It froze. On January the 6th, we went out with a 70-foot air boom, and we broadcast 140 or 50 pounds of cereal rye over the top of frozen ground. So I don't want to hear from anybody that we can't do it here because it's too cold. And the following spring, we had a perfect stand of cereal rye. January the 6th. It can be done, folks. Okay, cocktail package. This is big. I think we're already doing this. We don't know it. Cocktail packages prescribed for weed problems. Here's what we're going to be doing in the future. We're going to sit down with an agronomist or a CCA, whatever you want to call them. We're going to sit down and we're going to answer 10 to 15 questions. What's your fertility program? What's your crop rotation? What's the cover crops you're using? What biology? Everything. What are your 3 weeds that you combat in this Smith 120? Then you're going to take a company like Vache's, Andy's company, and you're going to incorporate a biological program into a cover crop program, and you're going to create the exudates that certain species don't want to germinate in. Do you know what the goal or the purpose of every living organism on this planet is? It has one goal. You know what that is? Procreate. So, if you create the environment that water hemp does not want to grow in, it will not grow. Think back in time. Think back. Do you always have the same weeds show up as the problem year after year after year? I can remember in 17, it was water hemp. In 18, it was giant ragweed. In 19, it was mare's tail. Why? Because a trigger was set by Mother Nature to tell that species, this is your time to grow. That's what we're going to do. We're going to shut them off through prescriptions of cocktails and biology. Nutrient density goes up and soil health goes up. Andy already talked about that. There are no failures. Outcomes we did not expect. I know that sounds corny, but I'm telling you, failure is a negative word. You need to eliminate negativity. I always say, if you have negative people around you, you got to get different people, because they drag everybody down. I can remember when we were when you're in college, and you always have those one classes that want to have a group of 6 people do a project. And there's always one person in that 6 that disagrees with everybody, and they bring the whole thing down, and you get a C on the class because of that one guy or gal. That's what I'm talking about. I know that's hard. I know there are family members that are at home that are in total disagreement with what I'm doing. I understand that. But we have to figure out ways to make them understand, and that's through education. Carbon markets will require soil health practices. Anybody in a carbon market right now? A couple people? There's another island that you probably know, Mitchell Hora. I think he's southeast of here, Washington County. Mitchell is at the cusp of the CI, the carbon intensity scoring. That is going to be an opportunity for everyone in this room probably to take advantage of. I mean, some of the numbers that I hear are upwards of $300 an acre back to the farmer. That's big, but you're going to have to incorporate some of the stuff that I've been talking about. Do not underestimate the power of what's happening in this room right now. There are people, there's a guy right there who's been no-tilling for over 30 years. There are people in this room that are doing things that we need to pay attention to. It takes a village to do this, people. You cannot do this by yourself. You just can't. It takes everybody. Unfortunately, a farmer's success is measured by yield. Oh. you will notice one thing about my you will never see a slide about yield in my presentation. Because it's not about yield. It's about building soil health, it's about building human health, and it's about maximizing ROI. I can't think of any other business in this world that runs on just making their product as big as they possibly can. It's being ran on profitability. You guys have done such a good job of raising corn and beans. What have you done to the price?
Just nature.
When you have it's simple economics, when you have an oversupply and your demand is diminishing, there's only one place for prices to go. And it's not your fault. I didn't mean that statement to put the blame on you. That statement was more of a positive statement saying how good of a job you guys have done. I mean, you guys raised record corn in 23 and you outdid 23 and 24. That's nuts. So you guys are doing a really good job of raising bushels. Systematic biology approach running parallel with your systematic regenerative farming approach. That's the one thing. I mean, I'm a pretty stubborn person. Just ask my wife if you ever see it. She will not deny it. Rick is the most stubborn person she's ever met. And I was extremely stubborn at the beginning of our journey. Because I was determined that we were growing the biology that we needed to make this transition happen. That is true, but it wasn't happening fast enough. So if you're going to start to move away from synthetics and herbicides and all of these other things, you need to have a biology program with you to help energize and repopulate the families that may or may not be there. See, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a chemist. I wish I was a biologist and a chemist. Those are the two that I think a farmer should be. When the young kids come to me, the 18-year-olds, and say, Rick, I'm going to college, what do you think I ought to study? You need to major in biology and ecology and minor in animal science. Those are the three things I tell them. And that'll get you a long way down toward what I've been talking about we're doing, because that's all we're doing here. We're talking about changing the biology or augmenting what's there. So I don't need to know the names of all these families like Andy. I just need to know that, here's what I'd like to know. Rick, we just pulled a soil sample, and on the average there ought to be 32 families represented here, and you've only got 17 represented. That's all I really need to know. Okay, how do I get to the other families? Well, this product here, and this product here. That's the stuff I didn't do when we started the journey. We need to meet people where they are. Where are you on the journey? Have you even started? Do you want to start? I'm going to ask a question to the audience. If you want to start, what is the hindrance that's keeping you from starting? What is it? What's the stumbling block? Anybody, just yell it out. Failure. What else? How about education? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know that you can let cereal rye grow to be taller than I am? Done it many times. These are things that we have to understand. And we also have to understand that this is heritage. The way you farm, it's the way you were taught. So I'm not going to put you down for the way you farm. I just want you to take a couple of things you've heard today and take them home. That's all I ask. Cocktails should be built using multiple families. This is something that I've started to do. Instead of getting a cocktail, and what a cocktail is folks, it's a term used for species of cover crops. So if you plant 8 species of cover crops together, that's called a cocktail. I used to preach that we need to go from 10 to 12 to 16 species. Now, the more I think about it, we need to go from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 families. And believe this or not, I don't know if you guys like to listen to podcasts or not. There's one that I think you really should listen to. Green Cover Seed, that's the name of the company. It's a cover crop company in Nebraska. They do webinars. And Dr. Christine Jones from Australia did a 4-part webinar series with Keith Burns. And one of those is how to raise corn or a crop that requires nitrogen with 0 nitrogen. And she will explain that in the podcast. And she's got what's called the phosphorus paradox. She's got, it's well worth your listen. And she's all talking about families. And I told you that we use legumes to fix nitrogen to use. She doesn't use any legumes in her cocktails, none. Because she has figured out what families will help promote the nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil profile to produce that nitrogen. A few new ideas coming down the road. Global neighbor in Ohio, light. This gentleman has figured out what part of the light spectrum kills weeds. He's also figured out what part of the light spectrum excites germination. So one of the things that he has, he's got a light bar that he puts in the back of your combine, right behind the shoe on your combine, and any weed seed that's coming off to get ready to go out the back end to be spread, the light bar is sterilizing that seed, so now that seed is not viable. That's big. Greenfield Incorporated, robotics. Clint Browder. He's got these little robots that run through the field, and his goal is to eliminate all chemistry and all inputs, and he's going to keep your fields clean with the robots. Frequency of water. Personova. I don't have enough knowledge to give Vache the credit that he is due, but he has figured out how to change the frequency of water to match what your soil is crying for. It's amazing. There's so many things in this world I don't understand. I don't need to understand it. Frequency of water. Biology, advancing eco-ag. And I don't use John's products. I just put John up there because he's one of the well-knowns. But you need to find a biology company like maybe Physigrow. Find a company that you can trust. Because I'm telling you folks, I don't even know what the percent is. It's way over 98%. 98% plus of the products that are called bugs in a jug are dead. What's a dead species do for you? Nothing. So make sure you understand who you're purchasing your products from. And I'm also going to bet that Vache will agree with me on this next statement I'm going to make. A true biological salesman should tell you that you don't need them after years 3 or 4, probably. Because if you continue to do the regenerative practices, you should no longer need to augment the biology with an outside source. You are growing it. It's there. But this is back to what I said earlier. I don't think we necessarily need those species. We need the hormones to excite those species and turn them up. and get them overproducing. Biochemistry, microbiotech, agrobiotech. This is a gentleman from Nevada. He has figured out how to use essential oils and kill weeds with essential oils. So no more glyphosate, no more whatever it is that gets sprayed. It's amazing how, when I think about the chemistry, none of the chemistry has changed. They just changed the name. It goes from Cadillac to Lincoln to Cheyenne to whatever. It's just incredible. Marketing, the Option Army, gentleman in Chicago. He's probably the number 2 option trader in the United States. Option Army. Planting multiple cash crops together, that's what we do. Epigenetics. How are we on time? We way over yet?
No, we're okay.
We're good. How about you read that, I'll take a drink. What's that?
Can you go back a slide?
Yeah. Thank you. And there's more that could be on that list. I just pulled a few out. All right, let's read this. Heritable phenotype changes that do not involve alterations in the DNA sequence. Unbelievable. These phenotypic trait changes may result from external or environmental factors or be part of normal development. Wow. Okay. I've got all kinds of stories. I'm going to give you one now. I'm 14 years old. It's a beautiful 75-degree fall day. The beans are testing about 13%, and Dad says, go get the 2 wagons out of the shed and meet me at the field right over here. Okay? Get the wagons out, go across the road. He harvests those wagons full of soybeans. Now remember, this is before any trades, so you can legally do this. And I said, Dad, what are we doing? I said, we got a seed dealer right down the road. Why aren't we, no, we're going to plant the beans from this year's crop next year, and we're allowing that soybean to adapt to our system. Okay. Well, the last I remember, he was on that same soybean for 14 or 15 years. And the yields got better every single year. Epigenetics. This is what we do now. We no longer buy soybeans. We are in the middle of our own corn breeding program. We don't buy any outside livestock. We don't buy any cereal grains anymore. All of these things, though, are done legally. So, again, I get one of these crazy ideas 5 years ago, and we go to Champaign-Urbana has got a building, USDA building. It houses every seed known to man and woman. Every seed. I don't care what it is. It's in there. And they have farmers that will grow more if they run low. You go in there, you open up their catalog, and you look at, I looked at soybeans. I wanted to know what soybeans were off patent. So we went to, and I just decided to go to the brand that I grew up with, Asgrow. I just knew that, I just know, Asgrow. And anybody in the room plant Asgrow? Anybody plant Asgrow 30 years ago? Nobody? Wow. I'm going through the lineup and I'm coming to this one variety. I'm like, I cannot believe Asgrow let this go. Asgrow 3127. 40 to 50% of the soybean acres in the United States were planted to Asgrow 3127. I now own that genetic. $100 buys you 50 seeds. You take 50 seeds and you then grow those 50 out. Now we did this to 10 varieties. 3427 was in there. 29, 32. Can't remember some of the other ones. But we planted hand planted the 10 varieties. Within the first year, 5 were out because they were not going to work in our system. We then took the 5 and harvested that and grew that out, harvested that. Now we've got enough seed to mechanically plant year 3. Then we mechanically planted year 4. We now have enough seed that is ours that we grow our own soybeans now. We can legally take them out of the bin and go plant them. That's epigenetics. We're doing the same thing with corn. I ran into a guy that has been a corn breeder for 40 years. My great-grandfather started a seed company in 1929. The corn breeder came out of Purdue University's breeding program. My grandfather, or my great-grandfather, bought seed out of the same breeding program in the 1920s. We are now have found the same genetics my great-grandfather was using in 1929. I don't know about you, but that's pretty cool. And we are now starting our own breeding program again. So we're going to have seed that has never been altered, and it is actually a phenotypic trait change as a result of external or environmental factors. That's what we're going to do. All right, I talked about multiple cash crops together. When we plant cereal grain, there's either a soybean planted with it or there's a pea planted with it. And then it depends on who the buyer is at the end of the day. A buyer that wants to feed livestock will take the cereal grain and the pea together and feed it to their livestock. If not, we separate it with a cleaner, and the cereal grain goes over there to be sold, and the soybean or the pea goes over there. $5,000 or $6,000 investment. I mean, we have cleaned, since we've had that machine, we've probably cleaned over 200,000 bushels of grain. Organic, certified grain. Maslin. A mixture composed of different species of grains. We are doing this with rye, barley, and wheat. This is a 3,000-year-old tradition. Again, I got another quick story. We've been doing this for about 3 years. So I decided, again, if you've paid any attention, I care about diversity. Well, when it gets to be November the 20th in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska, you can't plant very many species because it's too cold. So I thought, well, let's get diversity then within the cereal grains. So we started with 60% rye, 20% wheat, and 20% barley. And that's what we started with, the mixture. Now, I didn't know it was called a Maslin. But earlier in this presentation, I told you how important data is. This is a tremendous data collector. And not only is this a tremendous data collector, they are a tremendous user of that data. I am talking to my wife at dinner. The phone is maybe way over there. We're over here having dinner. And I'm telling her about this idea I had 3 years ago of planting these species together. And guess what comes into my Facebook feed the next day? An article on Maslins. A 3,000-year-old tradition in the Middle East. Now, they not only grew these together, they also then ground the flour together and made a bread out of that Maslin. So that's where I came up with the diversity through the Maslin. Now, when we grow that with peas, the chicken people are calling me frequently because the chicken people want to get away from corn and soybeans. So they need another source of protein. There it is, when you add that with peas. there's a Johnson Sioux bioreactor. That, the reason why I like this reactor is because it's being built with material that is inherent from your farm. Okay? Again, I get all these wacky ideas. So what I did was, I wanted to know what the difference was between the soil that we've been farming in our family. I'm a 5th generation farmer, so I want to know what the soil is like in this spot in the field that we've been working with human hands and equipment for all these years. And I want to come over here in the fence row or a tree line that's never been touched by a human. And we're going to get a biological assay of that inherent soil and compare it to a biological assay right here. Believe me, they are way different. So now, when you do that, now you have a baseline. And if you are ever going to go down this road of being regenerative or reducing inputs, whatever you want to call it, I beg you to baseline your farm. Get a test ran and show where you are. You know, I am not reckless enough to say that we haven't applied P or K in 11 years and I don't know what the hell's going on out there. We sample every year. The rates don't go down, folks. They go up in these tests. And that's after removal, crop removal. So baseline your farm so that you know what you're doing is working. That is a way to baseline your biological approach. Oops. All right. This is farming green. Is that video going to play? No. Oh, no. Larry, Houston, we got a problem.
Not moving.
Here, I can maybe do it here. I think I can do it right here. All right, here's how we plant soybeans. That is about 7,000 or 8,000 pounds of biomass. And it looks just like your planter, right? Maybe it's not the same color, but there's nothing on that planter. There's no coulter, there's no row cleaners. It's a double disc opener and a closing system. Now we're going to come back 35 to 40 days later. We're going to roll it down with a roller crimper. Now the beans out there are about this tall. You're not going to hurt them. No, we've rolled beans this tall. Now you know when you're right, when this pans off to the right, that dust you're going to see is not dust from the field, that is dust from the pollen coming off of the rye. That's when you're right. Okay? You see any weeds? I don't see any weeds. No tillage, no chemistry for 10 or 11 years. What happened to it? There's what the field looks like on July the 19th. Now, is it perfect? No. Is there grass coming? Yeah. Back in the back, you probably can't see this, but right here's the rye that we rolled down. Here's the brown stems rolled down. That's creating the mat to suppress the weeds. There's grass coming, there's mare's tail right there. Is this perfect? No. But look at the date. We have done nothing chemistry-wise up to July 19th. So if you think you need to take care of some weeds, fine. Go in there, post-spray something, one pass, and you're done. I don't know why that doesn't, okay, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you the formula of when our farm was the absolute most productive. Here it is, right here. 100% cover crop, 100% no-till, 100% non-GMO, and 70% 70% reduction of inputs. 70. Not organic, 70. So take your fertilizer program, take her to cut 70% out of it. Take your chemistry program, cut 70% out of it. That's when we were the absolute maximum ROI. You've done nothing. You've put on no potash. You've put on no chemistry. All you've done is plant a cover crop and plant a cash crop and roll down your cover crop. 3 passes. Here's what, now this is a little different scenario. Look at the date, June the 2nd. So Mother Nature decided to rain every single day that spring to where we couldn't get in the field until June the 2nd. So at that point, the rye is already at anthesis, and I decided, let's just go ahead and we'll roll first and have the planter right behind the roller. So that is about 5 feet tall, or no, 4.5, 5 feet tall rye, and that roller crimper is flat in that field. Folks, that's dead. It is gone. Here comes the planter. Now this particular planter does have row cleaners on it, but they're up, they're not doing anything. And when you see the planter go by, you're going to see that you can hardly even tell where the planter drove. Okay? There's the field on July 16th. So we just, is it perfect? No. No. But I will tell you this. That field right there was cleaner than any neighbor's field around. And this is the combines combining that field on October 17th. Can this be done every single field, every single time? No. No. One of the reasons why this field was so good, and this is why it's so important of when you plant your cover crop. This particular field here, the cover crop was planted in early to middle September. I could then take you in a pickup ride 5 miles down the road from this field, and you would politely say to me, Rick, what in the world have you planted in this field? The weeds are so bad I can't tell what's out here. And the cover crop that was planted in that field was planted after Thanksgiving. It makes that big of a difference. So we have, when you start to do these things at scale, it gets hard. It gets very hard. This is just is this a video? Yeah, I think this is a video too. I just wanted to show, this was a field, you can still see the blooms there, of hairy vetch. And that was rolled once with the roller crimper, and then the planter went through, and we no-tilled corn right into that vetch. Okay? And then, let's see. And then that's what the field looked like from a distance. So that's how we plant a lot of our corn. Now, let's go back to my comment of burning down. Right there is when we would have came in, 18 years ago or whatever, we would have came in with a half a rate of Roundup and sprayed that field. If it was non-GMO, we would have sprayed just before the corn came out of the ground. I would have waited 5 or 6 days. If it was GMO, we'd wait till the corn was V2, V3. And absolutely crush that hairy vetch and there'd be nothing left.
Rick,
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
When implementing and planting into greens, do you have to change your depth of the seed
Good
compared to
question.
any other?
Great question. Yes, great question. So what he asked was, when you plant into a biomass like that, Do you need to change the depth of your planter? Yes. Because now your gauge wheels are riding up on that mat you just rolled down. Great question. You've got to get out of your seat and go back and take a look. Probably going to need to lower the depth by, on a John Deere, every turn is 1/4 of an inch on that handle. Probably need to go 3 to 4 turns, so almost an inch deeper. Now we plant corn deep anyway. I'll plant corn 3 inches deep. We plant soybeans 1.5 inches. I plant everything at least an inch. I'll plant alfalfa 1.25 inches, clovers, all that stuff. We've all been told that you got to plant shallow. You don't. You just don't. Hell, we've accidentally planted beans 3 inches deep and they all come up. You know, you forgot to change your planter setting from corn to beans. You get and you make that first lap and you say, oh crap, I think I forgot to change the depth. And yep, sure enough we did. Well, guess what? Those beans came up too. So, all right, we're probably running on time, so I'll make this fast. You cannot get a chart like this until you collect a lot of data. And we've collected a lot of data over the years. What this chart is telling us is standard deviation is yield. So this is yield up the vertical and time across the bottom. So we started our journey on this regenerative cover crop, whatever you want to call it, over here somewhere, okay? Now look at the yellow line. A lot of noise in the yellow line. That is variation of yield. So if you pull into this field right here and you set your combine head down and you start combining through the field, we've got a swing of 30 bushel an acre going through one pass. But look what happens as time goes by of incorporating no-till with cover crop. The two lines are almost on top of each other, and now our yield swing in corn is less than 5. That's power. That is stability, and that's power. So what I mean by that is, let's say, and this whole world, we seem to be in a firebox, this whole world. We're just like one person's comments away of something erupting somewhere. When things like that happen, markets react. When corn and beans decide to make a move, and they are going to make a move, you need to be ready to react. When you have stability like that, I can safely go in and sell 130, 140, 150 bushel corn on a dollar rally in the bean market. That's power. Same thing over on the beans. Started out with a 9 bushel variation, which is a lot of the soybeans, and after the cover crops, less than 3. Now I'm just going to go ahead and answer a question that most people ask me by now, and I'll just go ahead. Rick, what have you seen with your transition to being all the way organic? Now what's this look like? Right off the bat, we took a 30 to 35% yield hit right off the bat. And we have all of our noise back. But I will tell you this. When you don't have inputs, you don't need a lot of yield to be profitable. This is the only time you're going to ever see yield in one microorganization. That's it. All right, input reductions. From 2011 to 23, we have reduced diesel fuel by 46%. We have reduced horsepower by 64%. So part of the diesel reduction is the horsepower reduction, but the other part of the diesel reduction is the fact we don't make all of those trips across the field now. It's a cover crop pass in the fall, it's a planting pass in the spring, it's a rolling pass, and then maybe a biology pass. Maybe. No more in, no more map, and these are averages. And no more lime and all these things. Now, what's that mean? And chemistry, 74 bucks an acre. What is, I don't even know what chemistry is today. It doesn't matter. And I don't care. So what's that mean in our pocket? The savings of that diesel fuel is 62,000. The N is 605. The MAP is 334. The potash is that, lime, chemistry, and I added seed in here because I told you we don't buy any seed anymore, but we're doing it legally. You have to do this legally. You just can't go to your bin and pull beans out of your bin and go plant them. You'll be in big time trouble. That's what we're saving a year on inputs. Wow. So that's big. So now I'm going to go tell you, and again, Andy had this on his slide. We got to be realistic about what we think we can and can't do. Do I want to raise 200 bushel organic corn and salt for $9 a bushel? You better believe it. Can I do that year in and year out in our system? No, I can't. You have to realize that. So now, what is the realistic yield goal in our system? For me, it's 140 bushel corn, and it's 45 bushel beans. And you're going to say, holy cow, I've sat here for almost 2 hours to listen to this guy tell me he's only going to raise 145 bushel corn. All right, I'll let you do the math. 145 bushel corn times $9 corn minus, oh yeah, I don't have any inputs, do I? We have to be realistic about our approach. Okay? I'm just about done, folks. And that number's repeated every year, obviously. Now, I don't know if I've got time to go through this. Betcha, do you know who these people are? Biomakers? Larry, you need to probably find some farmers in your group. You need to probably pick a field. And I mean, this is expensive. What I did on this test, what time is it?
We got about 5 minutes.
Okay. Here's what made me want to do this test. We've got a lot of no-tillers in the room. One of the effects that you can get from no-tilling is stratification. Okay? Stratification is when your minerals, your P and K and your sulfur, they start to get layered in the profile. Calcium is always going to go to the bottom. So my thought was, are we doing that on our farm? So I decided to, this was an expensive test, folks, and I don't recommend you do what I did all the way. This test cost $5,000. This is what we did. We did Biomakers B crop, we did PLFA, we did Solvita, we did CO2 burst, and one other. We did 5 things. I can't remember now what it was. We did 5 things, and I wanted to see what was happening with our microbes. This is big. This is powerful stuff. The yellow is very low. The blue, the light blue is medium. The little bit darker blue is high, and the very high is the darkest blue there is up there. Now, what I really care about is things like organic matter release. The decomposer microbes were also sufficient down to depths of 12 inches. Wow. The carbon fixation was medium to high across all depths. So what we did was we went out and we took a 1-inch sample, like 20 times to get enough of a sample to test. 1 inch, 0 to 1, put it in a bag. 1 to 2, put it in another bag. 2 to 3, put it in another bag, so on and so on. Then we did a composite of 0 to 6, and then we did a composite of 6 to 12. That's our test. That's why this thing costs so much, because we did 1, 2, 8, we did like 10 tests of every one of those things I mentioned. But look at the results we got back. Fermentation declined with depth, and methanogenesis remained fairly constant. Both would increase with severe compaction. So not only did I learn about stratification, we also learned that the compaction we have is not as bad as I thought. Next slide. Biodiversity. Biodiversity remained in the high to very high range in each sample, indicating a highly diverse microbial population. And Vache, this is what I'm talking about, where I think we've got the biology there. I need stimulants and hormones to energize. And maybe you're doing that. Do you have a product that does that? He does. These are the things that I like to work with like-minded people. And I like to work with people that are smarter than I am, because you learn something from them. There's one right there. Resilience increased with depth down to 6 inches, indicating that the soil microbiome is functionally capable of coping with stressors and disturbance, hence drought. This test cost a lot of money, but the information that came out of it was invaluable. Levels of soil microbes that promote plant growth and tolerance to stressors trended slightly higher in the shallower samples. Many of these microbes form symbiotic relationships with plant root systems, supplying metabolites like ACC, you mentioned this one, Andy, that mitigate plant stress and promote growth. And all of those are exactly where you want them to be on the chart. Yeah. Biomakers is the real deal. Now, there's other companies out there coming with DNA sequencers. And this DNA sequencer is going to be the size of this phone. You're going to walk out in the field, you're going to pull a sample up, you're going to put it in solution, you're going to pour it onto the DNA sequencer, and in 15 minutes, it's going to tell you everything there is in that biological assay. That's big. You can't do that? Oh, yes, I can. Sacrifice yield to maintain soil health. I do it every single day. And people laugh at me, people make fun of me, but I don't care. I am on a quest, a journey to maximize soil health and maximize human health. Folks, I'm telling you, you don't understand how important your health is until you don't have it. And then all of a sudden, then all of a sudden we're going to change. Well, that's a little late. We've got to look at making change now. Grow the nitrogen in with legumes. I already talked about that. Plant green in the living cover crops. Plant beans in 72-inch tall rye. Plant corn in the sort of rye. Yes, we can do it if we understand what's happening. The rye is pulling the nutrients away from that corn crop. So if you're going to do this, you then need to move your nitrogen forward. What I mean by that is put nitrogen on some planter, put nitrogen on, spin on some AMS, something. Some kind of nitrogen source has got to be moved forward. It's okay to have 38 plants. I did in 23. 23 was a killer. Or, no, I'm sorry, 22. 22 was a killer. Had 38 plants. But I look at that as the soil that we so preciously care about is a living, dynamic, changing organism. And it better, when you take a test today and a test in 3 weeks, you better have different results. Park your planter no matter the date. I don't care what your neighbors are doing. You have to do what's best for your system. Again, Andy talked about this. Andy's presentation was a perfect fit for mine. Compaction. Compaction is a greater evil than we all can imagine. If we're out on these fields too soon, we're creating compaction that we cannot undo in a short amount of time. Now, there are products that we can add to help, but you're not going to get past the fact that the best helper you have is a living root to go down and drill through that compaction. I hope to never plant corn in April again. When you look at the way we plant with these legumes, the legumes are not maximizing until after Mother's Day. That's somewhere around May 20th. Well, it's the second Sunday in May. So the 10th to the whatever. So we don't plant corn until after Mother's Day. Plant multiple cash crops in the same field. Totally eliminate all inputs. Now, the next things I'm going to put up here, I put up here on for a reason, because I don't want everyone to sit out here patiently and listen to me speak and then expect that at the end of the day, when things didn't work out, that I've got my hand out for a subsidy payment. I've taken no CFAP government subsidy payments since 2019. I've eliminated crop insurance 6 years ago, and I'm no longer in any government programs, ARC or PLC, since 19. That's how much I believe in what we're doing. I mean, you know, I can't, there's a young lady right there, and I'm not going to say what I'm going to say. It takes courage. Regen acres, no cash crops, certified organic with no tillage, 3 pass. I really should take this statement out. This is too strong. To be truly regenerative, you must take everything away. I'll tell you, it is so hard to be a purist. It's hard to take everything away. And again, I'm going to be brutally honest and transparent with you. When you take the combination of no tillage for 18, 19 years and add that to no chemistry for 10, 11 years in some of these fields, we are now getting perennial weeds that I can't stop. I can't. Chicory, grass, goldenrod, lettuce, I can't stop it. So we are going to do a tillage event to try to slow down some of these perennial weeds. Now, this is the perfect opportunity to do some baseline testing. So you go out in your field, we're going to go out and we're going to pull samples and we're going to see where our biology is before the tillage event, and then we're going to look at it a day after the event, a week, 2 weeks, and then we're going to see how fast it bounces back and what kind of resilience you have. And I am going to step out on a limb and say that when you take the way that we've been farming all these years and you have one tillage event out of 11 years, the system's going to bounce back pretty fast. We're going to verify that, and at Vache, the data on that is going to be as mind-blowing as what that bee crop data was. Yes. And all that other. If you are not uncomfortable with what you're doing, then you are not trying hard enough to change. It's that simple. I challenge everyone here to get a little uncomfortable. I think you'll like how it feels. Man, that lunch smells good. I got to get done. I am proud to be a farmer, but I'm way more proud of the way I farm. I call it regenerative organic stewardship. I thank you very much for your time. I've taken a little hiatus from this, but I do have a podcast that we do on Thursdays. There is, if you care about podcasts, you go to your app, you can download Farm Green is the name of it, and you can look at all the past podcasts we've done. And again, I'm very transparent, and there's how you can get a hold of me. So thank you very much.